Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Before I jump into this video, I would really recommend that you guys read the feminist film theorist Laura Mulvey's essay Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, where she coined the phrase the male gaze in 1975. She politically psychoanalyzed cinema in a way that depicts how unfortunately scopophilia is a reflection of everyday life. If you guys want me to break down the essay for you as a separate YouTube video, please let me know down below. I would be more than happy to do so. This video is divided into 3 sections. What is the male gaze, an example of the male gaze from my perspective, and my story time. So if you're just here for the story time, feel free to just skip ahead to that. In feminist theory, the male gaze is used to describe how women are depicted in a demeaning and overly sexualized way in literature and visual arts. Laura Mulvey rightfully stated that the male gaze has 3 perspectives: the man behind the camera, the man in the scene, and the man watching the film or the TV show or whatever it is. So the portrayal of women is done from a masculine and heterosexual perspective in order to empower men and diminish women's entire existence to their outward appearance, essentially objectifying women for the pleasure of the heterosexual male viewer, dehumanizing women and stripping them of their agency and portraying them as the ideal objects of desire. This is done through the use of slow camera pans of women's bodies, unnecessarily zooming into women's bodies, characters wearing tight and inappropriate clothes in settings where women in real life wouldn't do so, extraneous nudity, you know the drill. A perfect example of this is Suicide Squad, which is directed by a man, and Birds of Prey, which is directed by a woman. And the fact that Suicide Squad had a female costume designer is not an argument whatsoever, because David Ayer is known for overly sexualizing his characters in his films, and costume designers are obliged to match the costumes to the director's vision. So that's not. Anyways, there's a huge difference in the way Harley Quinn is presented in both movies. For example, the camera shots in Suicide Squad are done in a way that makes it seem as if the viewer is stalking Harley, and the camera pans that zoom into her body are done for the purpose of objectifying her rather than pointing out something that's relevant to the plot. In Birds of Prey, the use of close-up camera pans illustrate that Harley is leading the scene and we're following her. The hairstyles as well. In Suicide Squad, they're done in an overly sexualized way that is rooted in pedophilia, but we're not here to talk about that today. That's a conversation for another day. Whereas in Birds of Prey, her pigtails are done in a way that's a lot more appropriate for her age. And the costumes, I think, in Birds of Prey are the most prominent change, because in Suicide Squad, Harley is wearing a push-up bra that she supposedly fights in, very realistic. But in Birds of Prey, she's actually wearing a sports bra, and it's very obvious that she's dressing for herself, and the costumes reflect her very chaotic personality rather than objectifying her and sexualizing her. There are a lot of videos on YouTube that break this down in a very detailed approach. That is not the purpose of this video, but I really recommend that you guys check out these breakdowns because they're very eye-opening. At least like for me, they were very eye-opening, even though I already knew that this existed in cinema. Just like seeing the comparison side to side was just kind of mind-blowing for me, I'm not gonna lie, like it's insane. And the removal of the male gaze in Birds of Prey is actually reflected in men's response to the movie. They actually said verbatim that they took away Harley's sexiness, ignoring the fact that Margot Robbie herself felt very uncomfortable in those costumes, and that she said that she felt a lot more comfortable in the environment of Birds of Prey and how Harley was presented in that movie. Their tone-deaf response just showcases how their gaze is a lot more important than Margot Robbie's comfort and needs and Harley Quinn's accurate portrayal and storyline. Anyways, so let's get into the story time. That's probably why most of you are here. So I started growing my upper chest in 3rd grade. Why is that relevant information, you ask? Because that is when I fully realized that I was being sexualized by society. I refused to wear training bras and my mother respected my decision. I was literally like 7 or 8, like it wasn't even that deep. So one day we were at Toys R Us. The fact that this happened at Toys R Us is just like, what? Anyways, my mom took my brother and I to Toys R Us, and she was like chasing my overly hyper brother all around the store, and I was just like browsing the toys section in front of the cashier. And as I'm like browsing the toys, I just feel this like someone is just staring at me. So I turn and it's the cashier, who is a woman, might I add. Anyways, so at that age, I felt like I was doing something wrong. Like, am I not supposed to touch the toys? Like, what am I doing? So I just like looked at her and like I smiled and I waved, and I thought that that would get her to stop staring at me for some reason, but no, that just gave her the balls to call me over in a threatening and authoritative tone and go like, who are you here with? And I'm like, my mom. She's like, go get her now. And I'm just like freaking out, like, oh my God, did I like steal something and not realize? Like, what the hell is going on? I'm just like freaking out because like my mom is North African, okay? They're very strict, okay? So I was just like legitimately like shitting my pants. And lo and behold, this complete stranger is berating my mom for allowing me to walk out the house dressed like that. I was literally wearing like a sleeveless white dress that goes all the way to like right above my knee and like leggings underneath. You know, like I was dressed like a child, okay? I was dressed like a freaking child. And I was literally in Toys R Us, like browsing toys. I visibly looked like 7 years old. I looked like a child. I wish I could find a picture of that day and that outfit. But like after that day, I honestly refused to wear that outfit because that day was just very traumatizing for me. So it's gonna be very hard to find pictures of me in that fit, but I'll try my best. So this complete stranger is like infuriated and insulted that she could see a child's mosquito bites. And she's like calling my mom a terrible mother, and she's telling her like, not only do you not have any regard for her life, you have no regard for her afterlife or her safety. You're letting her walk around like this, knowing that men are gonna stare at her and enjoy it. Men are going to stare at her and enjoy it. Like that sentence haunts me till this day. Like over, I don't know how many years later, I'm bad at math, but over like a lot of years, okay? A lot of years. I'm sorry, I was 7 or 8, literally like buying toys, and this woman is sexualizing me through the male gaze. That is just absolutely disgusting. Not only was she sexualizing me, but she was also objectifying me and victim blaming a freaking child, like saying that it was my fault that men were gonna look at me and enjoy it, and that if anything happened to me, it's gonna be my fault for dressing like that, and my mom's fault for allowing me to walk out of the house dressed like that, dressed like a freaking child. Like, now we're all victims of the male gaze, and we internalize that, and that just becomes internalized misogyny. So her internalized misogyny, past experiences, I don't know what, but she was literally sexualizing and victim blaming a child. And I was just like, I vividly remember this day, you guys. You don't even understand. I was just standing and like watching this encounter. Thankfully, my mom didn't have it. She just put her in her place. But like when we got back home, obviously I was forced to wear a training bra because, you know, African parents, they're not gonna take it when anyone tells them how to raise their kids. But because they were put in that position, they're gonna try to do whatever they can to avoid it. And honestly, like genuinely, I could see the fear in my mom's eyes, because she's an immigrant in this country. I'm her firstborn child. She was just like genuinely scared and shocked at the same time. And she was like, oh my God, like if anything happens to my child, it's gonna be my fault. And I'll never forget that day. I don't even think my mom bought me anything. I think she just got mad and like we left. But like that day was so traumatizing. Like it was so traumatic to me as a child that I consciously started like slouching and trying to cover the fact that God gave me organs, you know? I hated walking straight, sitting straight. I was literally always on high alert that if I do, even if I'm wearing the baggiest clothes ever, that something is gonna happen to me, someone is gonna stare at me and enjoy it, and it's gonna be my fault. I truly felt like my innocence was stripped away from me that day. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to articulate it. I hope you guys understand what I mean. That day was so traumatizing to me, which is really sad now that I think about it. I was so young, and like to be put in that position for a complete stranger to make me feel so vulnerable, and I don't know how to explain it, but it was, yeah. The audacity of complete strangers in Arab countries still shocks me, I'm not gonna lie. That year was actually insane because like another incident that happened, this was when I was in 3rd grade. If you're Omani, you might know like Khalfan 7-Up. So one day, oh my god, no, this is a whole other story. Like I don't want to even get into it now. But yeah, that's basically how the male gaze ruined my posture. Genuinely, like I had a hunchback. I had a cancer scare years ago because they thought that I had cancer because there was like this lump in the back of my neck, and like after all the tests and everything, the doctor straight up was like, bro, that's fat, like you need to sit straight and walk straight, and if you don't, you're gonna have serious complications when you get pregnant and after you give birth. And like that's when I was just like, damn, I don't want anyone to know I have a chest. So yeah, thankfully I started like fixing my posture during quarantine, but I'm not gonna lie, when I'm out and about, I automatically like go back to just like slouching and trying to cover my chest. So please let me know down below if you guys ever experienced anything similar to that and how you overcame it, because I'm still trying, and it's not gonna lie, mentally painful and exhausting for me to fight that thought, because I'm so aware and hyper vigilant of the fact that I'm being sexualized. It's been like this thought in my mind ever since I was like 7. So like unlearning that is kind of difficult. So yeah, let me know if you guys experienced anything similar to that, and if you did, like how did you overcome it? It's so hard. I know it's not my fault, trust me. I know that there's nothing I can do about it, but just like the knowledge irks me. I don't know how to explain it. It genuinely like irks me. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this very short story time. Actually, and I just have some points to add. Like, if you're a grown person, and why do you sexualize kids? Genuinely, it's disturbing, it's disgusting. You need to sit back and actually reflect on that. The aftermath, I don't even know what to say. I can't even articulate myself. I can't even believe that happened to me till this day. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only woman that experienced that, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only woman that is consciously messing up her posture to avoid objectification and sexualization. And that is actually very sad when I think about it. I swear I could be wearing the baggiest clothes ever. Like, you can't even tell if I have a body or not. I just look like a blob, and men will like stare. It's disturbing. It's honestly like, what is wrong with them? They're so like sexually deprived and so hungry for something. Like, I don't even think that that is a valid excuse. I'm not gonna lie, it's just disgusting behavior. Thank you guys so much for joining me today and listening to my childhood traumas. Please let me know down below if you actually experienced something similar and how you overcame it, because I'm still, as I said, unlearning that. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe and join the family. Bye, I'll see you next time when I get the energy to film another YouTube video. I really look forward to reading your comments, I'm not gonna lie. So, bye.